Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our reaction interview for Justified City Primeval, Season 1, Episode 5. An episode really about hard truths for one Raylan Givens, including that, guess what? Everybody in this city is corrupt. Nobody follows, you don't even follow the rules. And yet somehow compared to a lot of these people, you are suddenly like a model Boy Scout, which has got to be a very unique and interesting experience for you.
Yeah, I mean, he even said that a couple episodes ago to Carolyn, where he's just like, I've seen some stuff in my
Yeah.
lifetime, but I've never seen anything like what is going on here.
I think this episode, to me, it really is all about sort of raising this big question of, does Raylan just have to put Clement down? Like, is there another way to resolve this other than just him having to actually take this guy out? Which, through everything with Boyd, everything in the past, like, Raylan still puts people behind bars. Raylan still has a certain element of morality, and he is
Yeah.
just surrounded by like this rapidly decaying situation where nobody is helping him. He's just continually getting a door shut right in his face.
Yeah. And even some of the cops that he's working with are just like leaving Clement's name out there to the mob to be like, hey, just so you know, this is what's going on. Raylan's like, how is that helpful to bringing him in? Might not be. If he gets killed, oh wells. It's just like, and Raylan's like, no, no. Like, what? Like, we're the cops. Like, come on.
The only rule in
Or
City
the
Prime.
marshals and the cops slash the cops.
The only rule in City Primeval. There are no rules. Like clearly, Raylan is just like running around here by himself, like going to a jail that nobody is running. Okay, we'll get into everything, but of course, before we do further, check out our okay, we're going to get into everything else, but before we go further, be sure to join our Patreon. We've got a link in the description below. Every Tuesday night, we are over there chatting live about Justified, City Primeval, all sorts of other great stuff. We want you guys to join in on the fun. So join our Patreon, check out that link in the description, and thank you to everyone who has so far.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It really helps us and helps support the channel.
Okay, so this episode was a very big Carolyn episode. I think it's probably the biggest spotlight that we've had on that character. And, I do have a lot of sympathy for her in the sense that, like, clearly she's going through a lot in her life. She's dealing with financial issues. She's dealing with having to represent Clement. Like, she needs.
And her ex-husband who's not being honest.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's a lot going on with her that's just piling and piling on her. She really wants a judge's seat. She sees that a colleague who had said that they're not interested is now all of a sudden interested, and they're looking like they're greasing the right hands and they're getting into the right position. Like, it's just slipping away from her more and more, and everything with her ex and the lien, and she had to pay it off, and like, it's just too much for her. So I got to ask you guys, was anybody surprised that she ended up going to Sweetie and was like, I need to see that book I'm in?
I'm not surprised. Like,
I'm not surprised.
I think, you get desperate enough, you try to find a way to get out of a situation. And ultimately, we need more of these characters on City Primeval interacting with each other. And I think we need to create as messy a situation as we can. And I mean, it already is plenty messy with Carolyn and Raylan at this point.
I think Carolyn's just in such a difficult situation because, as you outlined, this city, everybody's kind of not just living in a gray area, they're all living in the dark area where they're all doing bad things to be able to kind of get ahead or stay ahead, and people just don't care. And even though she's trying to do things the right way, all the people around her are not doing it the right way, and everything that they're doing is affecting her. And as much as she wants to be a judge and be on that bench and try to do the right thing, she can't get to that point if she doesn't end up, this is how she feels, if she doesn't end up actually doing the wrong thing, which is going to Sweetie, looking at that book, seeing a name or two that might help her out in a way. And Sweetie's like, oh, you see a name on there that could help you? Yes, I do. So going into these last few episodes, I mean, Carolyn is definitely on a different road now.
She's sort of realizing further, if you want to get ahead, you have to do the bad thing. in this city. And that's obviously a really unfortunate place to be in. And, I would love to say that, okay, maybe Raylan's going to be like this good influence on her, but Raylan's messy in his own way. And I think what
Yeah.
what makes that relationship and, them being together so interesting to me is like, I think there's a mutual attraction there. Like, I don't deny that part of it at all. But I think each one of them also feels like they can use the other one for something, that there is also a benefit that comes from this. But when you're both trying to play each other on some level, are you actually accomplishing anything at all?
Well, I think Carolyn also being with Raylan is, Raylan is somebody who's from out of the city, so he's not going to be sticking around or anything like that. But
Yeah.
he is somebody who is inherently good. And I think Carolyn is also inherently good. And I think that even though she's moved into this sort of like, well, if you can't beat them, join them sort of attitude, I think for her, being with Raylan and having Raylan around continues to remind her that there are good people out there. And even though he doesn't live there, it's a good reminder that you can get to the right end game by going on the right path. It's just they're now both in a situation where they're both like, can we get to the end by being on the right path? Are we going to have to go in a different direction where Carolyn's like, let me take a look at the book. And Raylan in that conversation at the end of this episode is like, uh-oh, maybe I'm not going to be able to get Clement in jail.
Like,
Maybe I'm just not.
this is, I think, the most interesting part of this episode, at least thematically, is this idea. And you just mentioned it. Can't beat them, join them. It's like with Raylan, do you just realize that I have to just do the most extreme thing, take out Clement, and be okay to sleep at night, sleep like a baby? Like, is that going to be all right for me at the end of all of this? Because this is somebody who's doing a lot of bad things. And
Mhm.
ultimately, we know Clement has so much dirt on everybody that nobody is really that willing to take him out because they know what the sort of repercussions of that will be. And if you just
Yep.
completely just put Clement in the earth, he can't spill dirt on anybody anymore. He's in the dirt. And so it's just like, with that in mind, is that the only real solution you have? Like, I don't think Raylan is going to accept that just because, we've seen Raylan for
Mhm.
so many years. I think he's going to try to like challenge this authority, but it's sort of in the process of doing that. He then adds the stakes on him. Okay, there's possibility Clement kills you. There's a possibility somebody else kills you if you end up threatening to expose whatever's going on with them.
Mhm.
Or three, you just get arrested because you disobey some sort of orders that are thrown at you by this super corrupt police force that you're kind of around all the time.
Maybe. I mean, this story at the end from Raymond, where it was kind of like, Raylan's like, he pulled a gun on you, Raymond. Maybe. I don't know. You don't know.
Yeah,
Like, it was such an
yeah,
interesting conversation where Raymond's like, yeah, I had to shoot this guy. Oh, well, he pulled a gun on you.
no.
Maybe.
It,
What? It was really surprising. Like you could see it on Raylan's face where it was like, uh-oh, I'm in a place where things don't matter and you can really get away with a lot and the force is protecting everybody.
I think it's just got to be still weird, sort of shell shock for him because, we spent a lot of time with Raylan where he wasn't on screen and in between Justified and now. And I think in that time, he has probably seen a lot of, okay, there is a lot of work to try to evolve certain elements of policing and try to make sure that you don't go down this road. And now he's showing up there and everybody there's just like, that road's fine. Just take out people. If they have a weapon, maybe they don't have a weapon, who cares? And it's just like this extreme sort of shock that he has to sort of deal with. And I think thematically, all this is really interesting. I'm just sort of left in this still strange spot where this season has been sort of billed as Raylan versus Clement, but really, since the first couple of episodes, they haven't really shared the screen all that much at all.
No. And this is where everybody put on your hard
Yeah,
hat.
yeah.
I'm going to give this show a little bit of tough love. Like there's some things that the show has done right and there's some stuff that I've really liked. And even in this episode it was interesting and good to see Clement is still trying to needle Raylan, sends him flowers, calls him chicken fat. Like, I was like, okay, at least there's still something going on there. But I was just like, there's not enough. And this is where I'm kind of like, does Batman need his Joker? Where, there's no evidence that Boyd is coming back. We know that he's alive and he's in jail and he's, been in jail all this time. And,
Yeah.
so how does he come back? I don't know. And I don't know if he can. I mean, Walton Goggins is very busy.
Yeah.
He's on so many shows. He's doing so much. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that he can't, but, he's very hardworking. But it just feels like Raylan can carry a show if he has a really good Joker, and Clement is okay. Like, the thing that made the original Justified as good as it was that there was really like a back and forth with Raylan and Boyd, and that while they're very different, they're also very similar, and that was always a lot of the fun of watching them together, or watching them fight each other, or watching them actually have to work together. Like, it made it really interesting that they could either be on the side of good, bad, or stuck in the middle in this gray area, where that is not the case here with Clement. Clement is just bad, and he's bad all around, and he's never in the gray area, and that's fine. It's very different. But to me, the thing that made Justified originally stand out was that they had this bad guy who wasn't all bad, but wasn't all good. And it sort of felt like Raylan, where it was like, he's more good, but he can be bad if he needs to be. So that's the part that I'm having the hardest time with, is that they have too many other things going on. They should have pulled out this mob story. Like, it doesn't matter, and spent more time with Clement and Raylan either together trying to deal with things. It makes it a little more difficult because Clement's just a bad guy and there is no negotiating with him or kind of working with him or whatever, but there needs to be more of it. Like, flowers, okay, I like the move, but that's all I had.
They have to find a way to get the two of them in the same room, at least a little bit more than what they're doing, because there's just not enough stakes otherwise. And yeah, I understand the logic that if they're in the same room, Clement's just eventually just going to try to kill him and just get it done with. But
that's the problem with Clement, is he's just too chaotic. There is no having those really good conversations like, Raylan was having with Boyd. That just isn't there.
Like, I mean, I think we are setting up to some extent a potential downfall of Clement here, in the sense that it's pretty clear he and Sandy have enough money. Like, Sandy basically points it out to him. We can just go to Aruba, just go somewhere. And he's just like, no, I ain't doing it. You are flying too close to the sun here, mister. You have somehow managed to get away with what you've been able to get away with. And I think because Clement is just so arrogant, like, I mean, we are talking here about a guy who's sitting around in his underwear for the bulk of the show. Oh
my God, put some pants on, man. Like, every episode, I got it the first little while, but it's just like, put it away.
He is so confident. He's just like, I don't have to. He's just gonna let it all be there for as long as possible because he don't care. He doesn't think that anybody can stop him. And
and clearly we can't stop him because he's still not wearing pants. I have to watch that every week.
This is the real mystery. It's one, will Raylan stop Clement, or two, will pants stop Clement? Maybe the world will never know, but
is there going to be a showdown with Raylan and Clement with no pants on?
Okay, you got to put on pants for the showdown, Clement. I'm just saying.
I really hope so. I mean, he had that hug with Sweetie with no pants, so who knows?
He is such a weirdo, and he's also this crazy unpredictable, and it raises the stakes for him as a character, as does the fact that, he's clearly never going to be satisfied with just like however much money he ends up getting. But I think at the same time, this is really his weakness. And I think if you are Raylan now, I think the best way you can try to expose him and potentially defeat him is to go into this thinking, I need to find a way to further feed into his ego. If you can find a way to make him feel like he is completely untouchable, he's going to slip up because he's going to think it doesn't matter if he does.
Okay, the best part of this episode was Carolyn and Raylan having dinner and Jamal showed up. Listen, I'm in Joseph. I love him. I haven't made it any
Yeah.
secret in these videos. I loved him on Snowfall so much. And I love him on this show too. I know we've barely had him on the show, but he was in a lot of this episode. I mean, afterwards, we saw Carolyn go over to his house and him try to like smooth things over. I love you, but he has another woman living there. Like it was really the last straw that sent Carolyn over the edge. But seeing him sit down at that table with Raylan and Carolyn was so funny. Watching her get up and leave and have him just turn to Raylan and just be like, the best Chinese restaurants are in Detroit are actually in Canada. I'm like, yeah, they are.
Watching these two just like clueless men become so focused on each other that they don't really realize that, okay, you're letting the woman both of you seemingly care about just get away
leave.
in this situation. It speaks to both of their own egos, but also both of their own stubbornness. And for Raylan, like, we don't know, I mean, Joseph's character that well, but I
No.
can totally see this happening with Raylan because we know Raylan's whole profile is he gets so obsessed with taking on the bad guy that he kind of lets the rest of his life, fall apart. He's let Willa go. I mean, it's for her own safety, but still, he wasn't spending the most time with her ever before that. It's not like when he was chasing down Boyd that like everything was hunky dory with him outside of that.
Yeah, and speaking of Willa, we did see him trying to text her to be like, "Hey, how's it going?" and her just be like, "Nah, I don't really feel like talking to you right now." And it's tough because I mean, yeah, Raylan's at work, but she asked him to be more present and he is. If that's the only way that you're able to communicate while you're on a job and you can't be together, then that's the way it is. I mean, like, my dad's up in Canada and I haven't got to see him in a little while, but he makes sure that he texts me. And I'm not going to be like, how dare you? You don't come down here and knock out. And, but at the same time, I hadn't been up there. Like, any effort is good effort if somebody's really trying to be like, I hear you. You want me to be in more contact? I will be.
Willa thing's just not working. Like, even when she's not on screen, it's not working.
It's not working. But I mean, the fact that they're showing that Raylan is still trying tells me, tinfoil hat, that, she's probably going to show up again. I mean, it feels like he's going to have to leave Detroit and go home or go to see her or something like that. I don't think she was there for no reason. Like, if he wants to be a better dad and he wants to be more present and he's trying to text her and she's like, no, then he knows that the next step is, once this is wrapped up, I need to go see her. So I think we're going to end with that. It makes sense.
That's okay if you're giving. I just need Willa to have a purpose that's not just a distraction for Raylan. Because we're all there to watch Raylan take on the bad guy. Like, that's why. So we're all inherently just going to dislike her because you're putting her in a position where she's taking away from what we want the focus to be.
Very specifically, don't work. Pay attention to me.
And that may be understandable for that character to feel that way.
Yes.
But it doesn't make for fun television. Not in Justified. We know what we want in Justified.
Yeah, I want to see, going forward in these last episodes, actually Raylan with Clement or getting closer to that. Like, I appreciated having more of the Carolyn story because it feels like it's going to really sort of tip things on its head with Raylan going forward, when he eventually, I'm sure, will find out her involvement or whatever. But like, I really need to see that amping up.
Give us chaos. That's all we're wanting. That's all we're asking for, Justified. But okay, well, we'll wrap this one up here. But join our Patreon. We've got a link in the description below. Live chats every Tuesday. We hope you guys can be a part of that, and we will see you here next time.